Hi all, this is Lulu and I'm going to show you how I took this box that I found at a thrift store and I purchased it for 50 cents, and it is a wooden box with some metal hardware, and it did have felt on the inside. So I'm going to show you how I was able to take that box and clean it up and give it a new look. So first thing I'm going to do is remove the hardware, and then once I remove the hardware, I'll be sanding and cleaning it up because I can't remove that paper. It's enameled on and I'm not able to get that done like I thought I could. So once I get all of that taken apart, make sure you put all the screws in a little container, get it cleaned up, and then I'll be back with you to show you the next steps in getting this nice, making this box a brand new look. All right, so now that I removed the hardware, I did break a little piece of it that I repaired with some glue, and so I just have that messing with it right now and just having it set up. And then I'm going to paint the inside of the box gray, the inside of the top and bottom, and it's just going to be one coat. And then I'll be painting the outside of the box in white chalk paint, and I'm going to give that 3 coats to make sure I cover up all the print. So once I get that going, we're ready to go. Thank you. realizing that I don't like the box white. So what I'm looking for is, I'm thinking, am I going to put a napkin on it? Am I going to find something else, another stencil, something that I can do with it, but I'm really just not liking it white. I guess I could have distressed it a little bit. I wasn't thinking about it at that point. Again, this craft was something I hadn't planned, and so I'm just going to bring out some of this paper that I had purchased at a Habitat for Humanity, and I'm going to be putting that on the box. Actually, the bottom of the box. I'll put it at the bottom of the box. And what I'm going to do is, the top of the box, we're going to enhance it with some other things. So right now I'm just cleaning my workspace a little bit to give it a little more room, because it is very, it's just cluttered right now, and I want to make sure I have a nice clean surface. And what I'll be doing is cutting enough of the paper to wrap around two sides, and then I'll use the other side of the paper to cut a piece to wrap around the other two sides, and that will finish off the bottom. And this is a really nice pattern because I love buffalo check, for one, but the other thing is it's easier to line up, so you know you have it straight. So you have a straight edge on the bottom, you wrap it around the side. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just bending the paper over the top, so it kind of gives me a guide as to where I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to cut a little above it, and I will be able to sandpaper that off after it's glued down. So right now I'm just getting my piece and cutting it to size. Now I usually, for this type of project, I would use a glue. What I did was I thinned down some white school glue, and I keep a bottle of that handy. I'll use that for decoupage projects, but what I really love for decoupage projects is polyacrylic. This isn't going to work because the paper is very heavy. It's almost like a scrapbooking thickness, or a little thinner maybe, like a wallpaper without glue. So that, it was on a really nice big roll that I had told you I got from Habitat for Humanity. It's a great place to go to get deals on paints and things like that. So in this bottle I had watered down some school glue, and I'm just spreading it on there, and I'm going to just brush it on and then apply the glue as thin as I can, but thick enough to where it will adhere to the paper and keep it glued. By watering it down, you don't lose that stickiness. And I will seal the box after I'm finished with the project. I'll let it all set for a day, and then I'll seal it with, I'll probably spray it with some polyacrylic clear gloss coat. And so once I get this to the way I want it, so it's not clumpy, oops, look at that, I picked up the wrong piece. Why am I even doing that? That's not the piece that I would want to use. That's too big. That is crazy. So no. So I will fix that. I'm going to, at one point, I will realize that I have the wrong piece, and I don't know, like I said, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't even know why I've continued. But I'm going to pull that off, and I will stick the piece that I cut down, and I'll throw that piece away because it's got the glue on it, and I just don't want to mess with it at this point. So come on, Lulu, take that off, you crazy person. Okay, there you go. Took you a little bit long to do that, didn't it? So, okay, put a little more glue down because the paper picked up a lot of the glue, so you just want to make sure that you did that. And so this is in real time. I'm not editing this for any faux pas that I may have made in this. I'll let you see just how, you know, crafters do that. We make mistakes, and we just pivot and move on. So I would have, if I didn't have enough of that paper, I would have used it. I'm just being wasteful. So I could have used it actually. So I'm just fitting it to where, so it goes over all the edges. It's going to be easier to match it that way instead of trying to match up an edge. So rolling it over the edge is the best thing to do. So I have enough to go over the one edge, and then when I roll it to the other side, I will be able to then put it over to, or wrap it around the other edge, and it'll be easier to match it when I cut my next piece. And so I'm just making sure that it's straight on the box, running along the bottom. Again, the excess over the top will be sanded off. So, and you see it, you don't think it's sticking well, that's okay, because we'll be getting out the crafter's iron to give it a good press. And the crafter's iron is amazing to use with your projects, your decoupage projects. It just gives it a good seal. The white glue and the Mod Podge will, if you let it dry for a second and still put it down, the heat will reactivate it and allow it to penetrate and seal that and stick really well. So even if I slowed down and it was starting, the white glue was starting to dry, that heat tool will reactivate it. So don't worry about that. Don't worry at all. So I'm just see how I got enough to go over the lip of that one. That's just all I needed to be able to match it. You just want to be able to run the next pattern up to it, and that'll all will be good. So now I'm just pressing it down, making sure that I don't have any bubbles, and then the crafter's iron will work for that also. Now I'm just going to get a piece of parchment paper, because you never want to put the crafter's iron directly on top of your craft. You might burn it, scorch it, or leave some marks. So just keep ironing it. I have this on high setting because it is and I am speeding this up a little for you. I have it on a high setting because it is thick paper, and you want to make sure that that gets down. So I'm cutting that next piece to go over it. You can see I think you can see I have a good seal for this. So I'm just repeating the process and cutting the paper. So I'll go ahead and speed this up for you while we get that part finished. Now it's time to clean the lid up. So I'm just sanding it a little bit and just making sure I don't have any rough edges. And I'm going to put a coat of gray over the white paint. So I'm just sanding that a little bit so that if there's any roughness, that it'll give a nicer coat of paint to for the gray that I'm going to put on there. So I'm going to lighten up the gray just a little bit lighter than the inside of the box. So I've got some gray paint in there, and I'm adding some white, or I'm going to add some gray to the white and just give it a little bit lighter coat. And because of what I'm going to stencil on the top, I want to make sure that that pops a little more. So I don't want it too dark, because it might take away from that. So I'm just giving a nice little thin coat to the white box, and once I have that coated, we'll start embellishing it with some of the decals that I have. right, now the exciting part, the embellishments. So I have these rub-on transfers that I got at the Dollar Tree. I've never used them before. So a sheet, $1.25. This is what they look like. So they're just rub-on transfers. And I thought they might come in handy someday, so I thought I'd try them out. So each pattern there's 2 rows of, and so I can only really do the short sides of the box, which is fine because I'm going to be putting something on in the center. So I've never used these before, so I don't know what the quality is. I don't know how it's going to work. And what I find is you need to be very careful because they can stick together and the transfer comes off very easily off of the plastic backing. So just get it where you want it, and once you line it up, kind of just press it down before you rub it on, just so it's in place. It's got a little bit of tackiness to it, so you just want to just rub it and get it into place. And then once I do that, I will get it on the other side, and we will be good to go. So since I got these at the Dollar Tree, they are a little on the cheaper side. So you really just want to, they're a good thing to practice with if you've never done stenciling before. So I would just say be very careful with them. They end up working really well, and I will seal them with polyacrylic. So yeah, just be very cautious. Just do it very slowly. All right, so I'm just going to now cut the second strip off and get that into place. Make sure I have it, where I want. And see how it's sticking to the other piece? Now I take some of the other pattern off, but it's, like I said, this is the first time I've used that, so I should have probably been a little more cautious. But I'm just getting this placed on the other end. And once I get that in place, I'll start rubbing the pieces. See, I'm trying to get the extra pieces that I got stuck from the other end. So I'm just going to get that in place of where I want it. Just leave it there. Oops. Just be really careful if you're using this. It looks really nice when it's done, but again, it's from the Dollar Tree, so the quality is Dollar Tree. But you can't tell that once you're done with it. It is just a beautiful look. And I picked the pattern to kind of go with the buffalo checks, so they're kind of little squares, triangle squares, triangle shapes. And so I'm just rubbing it on, and once I get it rubbed on, it rubs pretty easy. I'm just using the end of my scissors. I usually have a rubbing tool, but that worked really well since I said it wasn't really stuck on it wasn't very difficult to get it off. But there were some pieces that peeled away or didn't adhere properly, but I have a little extra pattern at the end, and so it's really easy just to set that pattern on top of the other pattern and rub it in and fill in the gaps, and you don't even notice. So this is just really nice. It's a very simple process. It's going to give it just the added little design that it needs. I really like how this is turning out. It's very simple. It was, again, if you think of the cost of it, it was 50 cents for the box. The paint, I don't count that because I have it all, but I guess if you were to talk about how much paint it probably costs less than $1 for the paint. The transfers, $1.25. I'm only using 2 of them. I still have 4 patterns left, so let's just say a quarter that it costs. See how I'm just patching that up, setting it right on top, and then just rubbing it on, and you can't even tell that it's there, that I did a patchwork, I guess. This was a really simple pattern to match up, and so it worked out nice. So I'm just going to get those covered. I would not have been happy with it had I not been able to do that. That would have just, because it is the top of the box, it would have ruined it. So I'm just making sure that it's stuck. And there we go. Looks good. I think I have one little other spot. Luckily, I have a little piece left that's exactly the spot that's needed. And if I have any left over from the other side and I still need to touch up that side, I can use that also. But it's looking really good. So again, the box was 50 cents. Let's say a quarter for the rub-on transfer. The paint $1. Let's say $1, $1.25, $1.50. Let's see, what else do I have? The paint, that. Oh, in the center, in a second, you're going to see me put on this tattoo that is really cool. And I got that from Temu. And I'll show you how that works. And it's just another great way to add decoration to your art without it being overly expensive. I think it cost me like 89 cents for that. So look how that is. I see a couple areas that need some little touch up on there, but it's looking really good. And so there is the tattoo. So what you do is, I'm reading the directions now because I've never used this either. So I'm doing a lot of firsts on this. I'm just trying to show you how fun this is to kind of experiment. So Temu has these tattoos. They have some beautiful ones, some large ones and some small ones. This one is kind of a medium small size, and it's a butterfly with beautiful wings, and that's the instructions on the back. And what it's saying to do is remove that top plastic piece, and I'm going to cut out I'm looking for the instructions, and gee, they're in my hand on the other side of that tattoo. Okay, so I'm going to, I can't believe it. Oh, hey, look at, there it is. So it says to kind of cut around the tattoo. So I'm going to cut off the excess from the sides. I'm just reading the instructions again, because once you start it, there's no going back. And so I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to place it. I decided to put it at a little bit of an angle. So I'm going to cut off some of the excess so I can see where, what I'm working with, the area. So I'm just going to, looking at the pattern itself and making that decision. Again, you only have one chance at it, because once you start wetting it, it's just like those little kid tattoos where you wet them and they're on your hand for, whatever, days until you wash it all off or scrub it all off. And so what you do is you set it down. You're going to see me do that, and I'm trying to decide. I'm going to put it at an angle and in the center. And and so once I get it where I want it, then you just hold it down. You get a sponge, and you wet the sponge, and you rub it. So you don't oversaturate it, and you rub it for like 20 to 30 seconds, and then you peel it off. It took me more time to wet the sponge than it did to actually do the applique. So I'm just rubbing it on, getting the paper wet. So I'm just kind of just taking the sponge and just pressing it on the back. I don't want to get the sponge, the water, on the box itself. So I'm just trying to, and I have enough of excess on the sides that it gives me a little bit of leeway to not get the box wet. And so I'm just pushing down, making sure that it's wet, holding the paper down also, because you don't want to move it around. And I'm just kind of pushing it down and pushing the water into it and rubbing it. Just push and rub. You don't want to, and make sure you hold it into place. At one point, it's not going to move because it's on there, but you don't want to oversaturate it. You want to get it wet enough, but you do not want to soak it. You don't want to get the box all wet and have to deal with that. I'm afraid if I had to try to dry it, I might ruin the decal. But it looks just like a transfer. It's amazing. And when we're all done, after I finish this live, I will put a coat of polyacrylic on the entire box and go from there. So just rubbing it down, and I'm going to take a peek and see if it's finished. So I'm going to just take a look. I'm just a little afraid to take a look right now, but I'll lift up the edge. Just press, 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 and just a little rub, but not too much. And now I'm looking at it, and it's little area still needing to be done. Press, 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 and a little more water. Again, you don't want to be too fast, and you don't want, don't rush. On these things, when you're doing the transfers, you don't want to rush. So just press, 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 and it should be ready to go, because it was 20 to 30 seconds of pressing and lightly rubbing, just making sure it releases from the paper. And that's all it's doing, it's releasing from the paper. So this is the verdict here. It is done. Oh, and look how beautiful that is. So it's a wispy butterfly. It's beautiful. Let's take a look at that. Get some of the excess paper off that was rubbed. Just delicately rubbing. Make sure you see I have paint on my hands, but I'm not using, they're dry, the paint's dry for one, but I'm not using the finger that has paint on it. I'm just kind of rubbing it, just making sure it's smooth, and I don't want any excess on there, but I don't want to rub the tattoo off of it. So again, that was a tattoo that you would put on your arm. I got it from Temu. Look at that butterfly. Isn't that beautiful? It's beautiful. It looks great against the gray. So now we're ready to put the hardware on. Yay! Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I just think it's beautiful. Look at that. Okay, so we're just going to put the hardware on, and then we're done. So I'm deciding that hardware, I don't like the color of it. Was a bronze, so I took a little break in between here, and I went and spray painted it a pewter. And so it's got an antique pewter look to it. That's what we'll be putting on. So it's already done. I did that during kind of one of the little breaks that I took. But look at that. That is just beautiful. Don't you think so? Hey, if you're not subscribing to my page and you like what you see, I like to have a lot of fun and try different things. So if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button and giving me a thumbs up, and if you have any comments or questions, please leave those for me. I do answer all my comments, so I would appreciate if you could follow me by subscribing and giving me a like. So all I need to do now is put the hardware back on, and then we're going to be good to go. It's a done deal. So I'm just looking at everything to see where everything goes, and the piece that I had broke earlier, I don't know if I talked to you about it, but I had broke a piece and I glued it back together, and it's dry now. So this total project took me a little less than 2 hours, and that included going out in the garage and spraying the hardware, the pewter color. So just going on, trying to figure out where everything needs to go. And see here, we're ready to put it together. And it's just remembering how the pieces went. I told myself, I said, make sure you pay attention to how those came off. And I thought, no, I'm not going to have any problem putting them back together. And so the one thing I did notice is to make sure the hinge, the little latch on the hinge was on the inside, so that it would, when you opened the lid, it would hold it open. So the hardest thing was putting these things, screwing it back together. So I did the best I could. For some reason, it was because it's such a teeny little screwdriver, I was having a difficulty with that. So I had my husband step in, and after we were all done, so I put everything together, and then when we were done, I just had him give it a little 1-2 tighten. So I'm just so excited about this as I'm putting it together. I'm loving how I did the pewter. I'm so glad that I spray painted it. As a crafter, you tend to accumulate a lot of things. So one of the things I have is a variety of different spray paints. So, and it didn't take much. I just gave it a light coat. I didn't mind some of the bronzy showing through because it gave it a, more of an antique look. So it went well with everything. I love the buffalo check. I'm just so happy. I could have used a napkin if I wanted to. I could have picked a floral napkin or something. I could have painted the lid a different color. My husband wanted it red. He loves red. So, and he said he wanted the box. So, but I'm not sure. What do you think? Put in the comments if you think that it would have looked better with red. Now, this is something that you can just, if this was redone, it was bought the one way and I redid it, and who knows, someday somebody may find it in a thrift store again and strip it all down and paint it, and who knows what they'll repurpose it to look like. So I'm looking for a screw. I dropped a screw, so I'll move on. It was out in the garage, stuck on the paper that I was spray painting it on, so I'll add that later, but otherwise it's done. So what do you think? This is pretty nice. Just tightening up some of the screws. I think it looks beautiful. You could line it with some paper if you wanted to. I might go back and do that later. But because I finished it off so nice in that gray, it's a darker gray, it's really fine the way it is. But I could put a piece of felt in there. Depends on if you're going to use it as a box for storage or if you're just going to use it as a decorative piece. But I could give this as a gift and fill it with some stationery or some candles and different things. It would just be a beautiful gift. So I'm very happy with it. I will be finishing it with polyacrylic. And again, my name's Lulu, and if you don't mind subscribing, leave me a comment and give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Thank you.